Back Bay.
Well, welcome to Carib Direct. Today we're going to have another edition of the Caribbean Close-Up Personality of the Month. And with us, we're fortunate to have singer, musician, businessman, entrepreneur, and of course, actor, Levi Roots. Welcome, Levi.
Respect you, Rastafari. Blessed.
It's been a long time since we last spoke, but
it has indeed, yes.
You know, I'm happy that you were able to find time to chat with us today, because there's been a lot of stuff happening in your life since we last spoke. And what I'd like to do today is just give you a chance, just chat about that journey. You know, but let's go as far back as your schooling.
As far back as that?
Yes,
that's way back. Way deep.
Just give us an idea as to what your schooling was like, and you know, how you got into music.
Well, I mean, my schooling, from a primary part of it, I didn't have that part because I didn't go to school at all in Jamaica. In Clarendon, when I grew up until the age of 11, when I left, I literally had no schooling at all, because my parents was those parents who left Jamaica, you know, in the 60s to come to, you know, supposed to be finer fields in England to work to send for the families. And of course, I was left with my grandparents and couldn't afford to send me to school as the youngest of the you know, the brood of 6. So I didn't get any education at all. So coming to the UK, you know, at the age of 11, 12, and gone straight into secondary school where everybody else had gone through the primary process and kindergarten and knowing the whole 9 yards. And here comes me. The only thing I know I could do is walk my back quicker than everybody else. I climb a tree faster, which as a country boy, these were your skills. But of course, I excelled at these skills, and I used these country skills to actually to catch up with my peers and to try to at least be up there with them. But I suffered academically at school as in a secondary school. But I caught up because my mom decided that when I was in school I couldn't focus because I was trying to catch up too much with the other kids. So she took on, you know, the quest of educating me when I got home. So effectively I was at play when I was at school. You know, because I was just playing with the kids. But when I got home, I actually went to proper school, and it's my mom that actually taught me, you know, the whole curriculum, how to read and write, and within no time I caught up with the rest of the kids, you know, in school.
That's good. So the music thing, when did that come about?
Yeah. Well, the music was always, you know, in my family, you know. My grandmother, you know, she sang in the Baptist church in Clarendon in Content, and so did my grandfather. As a matter of fact, they used to sing a little duet together. And my mom also got a very good voice as well too. So, you know, that sort of singing thing was always in the sort of in the Dorman family, which is my original mother's family name.
Okay.
And so for me, it just came natural. And as I said, when I was in school and I couldn't focus on other curriculum things, but when it came to music class, I was always there, and I never missed it at all. And my first band was with a couple of school guys when we were in school in Tulsa School in Brixton, South London, and getting a little band together and singing. But whatever I tried after I left school, you know, my first job was as an engineer. I tried doing that, you know. Then I tried various other jobs, working a lathe and all this type of thing. But the music always came calling back, and you know, I always tried to get away from the music by trying to get in what them call a proper job. But you know, a year or two, always back to the music until eventually I listened to my soul calling me and said that, well, perhaps the music is the right direction to go.
You can't run from your calling. You just can't.
Chance.
Give us an insight as to what life was like growing up as an 11-year-old in Britain back then.
Cool. It was cool. And I came in winter. I don't know why this thing is that most people back in them days, they will always tell us it was always a winter flight when they come here. Because I hear the story all the time, and mine is no different. It was in the winter we arrived here, and I've never seen snow before, and I never felt that chill, that winter chill. I burst through every little crevices and corner of the garments that you have on, and how the place looked dead, because again, Jamaica, as you know, is a evergreen tropical beauty that's always green all year round. And as an 11-year-old boy, I didn't understand that the molting of the trees, that in winter, the trees lose their leaves. And because as Clarendon, you didn't really have no need to know that. And so coming here and you see it was like the petrified forest, where it's scary, like the trees them look like they want to come and grab you up and things like that. So having to get used to that. But still, when I saw those trees still, I think, Lord of mercy, a good firewood them would there. But the cold, that was for me was the hardest thing is to get used to. But the best thing is that I lived in Brixton. That's where my parents were from, in South London, and that was the hub of the Jamaican community. Wherever you were in the UK, if you wanted to find a family or a friend from Jamaica, somewhere that you missed last, if you went to Brixton, you'd more have a chance to find them there. If you were looking for some particular food or herbs and spices that you missed from Jamaica, if you came to the market in Brixton, you'd probably find it there. So I was in a place where that even though I miss my beloved Clarendon, but coming to living in Brixton, I still had a little bit of home with me because of the way the community was used to pull together, as a Caribbean community. So I learned pretty fast.
I witnessed an interview that you did with Menelik Shabazz,
yes,
on the Lovers Rock thing, when you mentioned something about the riots and the conflict. And you gave a little insight as to what it was like for black people in particular here back then. You want to just touch on that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, those are vivid images in my mind. Growing up as a young boy in Brixton, and having to raise our voices because of what was happening back then with the sus laws. And for those who don't know, it was the suspect laws, which give the police powers to stop and search you as long as you're a black young person, boy or girl. They would stop and search you. And because more than likely every kid did a little thing back then and there, more likely you would get in trouble and into something deep for something that's meaningful, that's less than meaningful. And so we all suffered. So and there was a point when people rose up, and decided to do something about it, and that was the result of the Brixton riots. And I think young people were waiting for a reason to answer back. For years, you've always suffered and never managed to say, hang on a minute, look at Brixton from a different perspective. We want you to bring the politicians to come down and actually see it, and let us as youths talk to them and tell them what the problem was. So this is where the Scarman report and all this came about, when politicians and these people actually come down to Brixton after the whole rage and everything. They started to look at it from our perspective. And this was brought about the change in Brixton, that if you was to go to Brixton now, which back in them days it was a complete no-go area. I remember if we used to go raving outside of Brixton, and in the middle of the night if you try to take a taxi and you tell them, say, you want to go Brixton, you don't have no chance of getting home. You have to walk home. So and it's the change from then to see what it's like now. That especially when you step inside the market, and it's not called Brixton Market, plain old simple Brixton, it's called Brixton Village, my dear. Yes. So it's like a village now inside of it. So it's a whole metamorphosis. It's a big change, and it's a great change, because you always need that change, and who knows where the direction of the change is come from. And I think if anybody was to say that it changed a little bit too much from what it was, when I was talking about when I first came and it was a predominantly Caribbean, Jamaican place, I think it's our fault for letting go a little bit of Brixton. Whereas we as Caribbean people should have stand up a little bit more and say, all right, you've noticed us, it's changed, but we still want it. And that's why when you go in there now, it's like Brixton Village, and it's not really like what it was before, but still, change is a great thing, and I still love the market.
So did your music develop while you were in Brixton? Did you get into a band? Did you form a band?
Yes. Well, one of my first great connections of meeting my first era was bucking up on the sound system called Coxsone. That was the first movement into the music business for me. And Sir Coxsone International was the top sound system in the UK at the time. They were from Brixton. I used to live my life as a sort of a teenager, trying to get involved in music. And one day I was just walking down Brixton Frontline, as you did then as a little youth, and I saw Festus. And Festus is the selector of Coxsone back then, and he was like a god to any youth man who wanted to be involved in music and sound system. He was the man. And we saw him one day. It was myself and my brethren Blacker Dread that owns Blacker Dread Music. And we got talking to Festus, and in some ways, to cut a long story short, Festus invited us to come to a dance at Coxsone. And we had to go in the truck back, because in those days, if you wanted to follow the sound system, you had to get into the back of the truck and go with the song wherever it was. And I always says, from we got in the truck back in that time, I think it was 1975, 76, we got into Coxsone truck back on that day on the front line. I'm saying I'm still in that truck back right now, because it's the influence of the sound system, of meeting Festus on that day, that changed my life completely, that brought the music. That was always something that was in me, but it brought it out of me, because I had a reason to express music with a microphone in my hand. And that was, that was encouraged by the owner, Lloyd Coxsone, who sort of saw that I excelled in the music, and he recorded my first song in 1981. Poor Man's Story, which was telling the story of me and my friends being on the dole, collecting government money, and as soon as you get it, you run down the front line, go buy a little draw weed, and you go, you meditate, and you put on your music, and you try to get some inspiration going. And that was what the song was about. And it was, it was well received as a 12-inch with Fredlocks on the reverse side. And that was my start into the music business. That song was a massive hit to everybody, my first song. I moved on from there and wanted to sort of expand my musical repertoire instead of being just a mic man, a DJ. So I formed a band. The band was called Matic 16. Again, it was very successful here. I mean, back in those days, it was two bands that was ruling the place, and it was Aswad and Matic 16. And we were, a touring band. I'm very successful. Our first song, Jehovah, is perhaps one of the most iconic sort of British roots and culture music back then, championed by a soul system called Jashaka. With that style of music that I had gone into, which is deep roots and culture. Big hit all over the place, Jehovah. And that kind of spiraled my musical career on. I went to Jamaica. I met Philip Fatis Borrell, who we know have Exterminator label, who unfortunately died recently. But it was meeting him, and when I returned back to Jamaica for the first time in 1984, I recorded a song called Itafi Bon with Sly and Robbie. And that was the start of the Levi Roots career, coming back after Matic 16 broke up. And I started back the Levi Roots name again, and that's where we are now. To the 2006, I wrote Reggae Sauce song, and the rest is history.
Right. Interesting, very interesting. So I imagine it was just after the breakup of that band that you met Maxi Priest.
Yes. Once the band had broken up, I really wanted to return back to my roots, to do the type of songs like Poor Man's Story, was the telling the history of the streets and where I'm from. That is what I used to do on the microphone when I DJ for Coxsone. Okay. And I found with Matic 16 I had gone into more political songs with that. So I wanted to produce now, after going back to my roots and become Levi Roots again. I wanted to pass on my experiences. So, I met people like Maxi Priest. We worked together. I discovered Mikey General, who is now perhaps one of Jamaica's, best roots and culture artists out there. I worked with people like Ricky Rankin, who's perhaps one of Brixton's greatest talent, came out of Brixton. And recorded these young artists and trying to put something back and move on with it. But my life still moved on managed me to meet upon great people and working people like Black Uhuru and all my heroes that I used to listen to on Cox's Sound when Festus used to play their music. You know, and I used to have that wish list of the artists that I want to perform with. You know, while I used to listen to them, I said, boy, it'd be great one day if I could perform with Black Uhuru and, you know, Gregory Isaacs and meet Dennis Brown and all these type of places. And Cox's Sound allowed me to do that, you know, including meeting perhaps the greatest man of all time, which is Bob Marley, and getting to know him. And that was through my connections with Cox's Sound.
Interesting. Yeah, well, welcome to Carib Direct. Today we're doing another edition of Caribbean Close-Up, where we will be featuring Levi Roots, who is a chef, entrepreneur, musician, and a prolific writer, we found out, and actor. So we introduce Levi. Welcome.
Respect you.
Yes, so you've given us a really good insight as to how your musical career got started, and some of the greats that you did some collaborations with as well. What would you consider a defining moment in that musical career?
Wow, that's a difficult one because there's been so much.
Many.
I mean, Cox's Sound allowed me to get as close to, you know, my heroes in the music business as you could get. I mean, whenever time there was a tour from any musicians coming from Jamaica, the first stop was always at the sound system that was promoting the music.
Okay.
Because back then, it was the sound system that was doing it, as opposed to now, it's videos and it's radio stations and it's this and that. Back then, you had to get the music out to the sound system. So we were, you know, right up there to do with, you know, music and how it was promoted in the UK. So I suppose meeting Bob Marley was a big, you know, inspiration on me, because his album Natty Dread was one of the first music that inspired me to actually know who I was, that I wasn't just, you know, what the name that my parents had given me, which was the Graham name, and as most Jamaicans have a Scottish kind of name connection to do with slave masters and all this. And I didn't realize all these connections, you know, as a Marley youth growing up. But it was Bob Marley came with that album, and I decided that Rasta was the way for me. And through Rasta, I had to find out who I was, you know, and not just live the life as just you being who somebody said that's who you are. You have to find out who you are. So I suppose meeting him brought those two together, because when someone is telling you about something on a record or on the music, you need to meet that person and to see whether or not it connects up. Sometimes it doesn't, because I know that thing about meeting your heroes. Sometimes it can be like a terrible experience. Yes, but I really wanted to see if the words that was coming from this great man in these songs that, you know, that we were playing on the sound system would resonate through him. And meeting him, it was even more so. You know, the music that I listened to Bob after was more apparent to me. I didn't struggle to understand what he was talking about or what he meant in the songs. The minute, you know, the music came on, I understood completely where it was coming from, because the man himself was like, he was true to his word, and you could accept that. And that is, that came about a lot in Jamaican musicians. For instance, Burning Spear was the same for me when I met him, because his lyrical content was something that I always adhered to as a youth growing up. And meeting him, I wanted to see whether or not the person matched up to the words that were coming. And you know, he gave me that same vibes as well. So, but meeting Bob Marley and actually getting to know him, I suppose that was the turning point in for me, how I write my songs and put them together, you know, just by meeting him.
So would you say that Bob kind of influenced your decision to do Lux, or did you have Lux before that?
No, I didn't have Lux before that. But when I listened to his music in the early days as a youth man growing up, you know, it brought the whole Rasta theme together for me. You know, because again, I was surrounded by Rastas through, you know, being close to music. But you have to have some connection, some twist, some trigger that triggers you on. And for me, it was listening to his music, you know, that says it was my time now to take who I am seriously and try to find me. And it's only as a Rasta I could have done that. I don't feel like I could have found who I was back then because everybody was searching back then in the 70s. It was a time of Angela Davis and the Soledad Brothers, and it was a time of soul searching for everyone. But you know, I found my path through Rastafari, and it was music that allowed me to, because reggae music was the only music that was completely telling you about life and how it is then. When I listened to other music, it was about love of the opposite sex and falling in love and all that kind of thing. But you know, in the 70s, when Rasta was kind of birthing to the world through music, it was the message that was coming through it. That was the most powerful thing about reggae music back in the 70s. It was that message.
Good. Any regrets in terms of music?
None at all. None whatsoever. I remember year 2000, being on stage with the great Michael Rose in Belgium. And, you know, he was, again, one of my heroes, because I remember when Black Hole first started and we were playing their music on Cox Sound. And just being blown away by the voice of Michael, the production, and the whole thing about Sly and Robbie and those albums that they were coming with, Sensimilla albums and that, and completely saying that, wow, and saying that, boy, one day, hopefully that, you know, I can get to work with, you know, with this man. And it happened in Belgium and being on stage. So I don't have any regrets when things come around like that, you know, and just meeting these people and being involved in music and being able to be inspired by the greats. You know, it's not often you get that.
All right. Now we go into the other area of your skill as a chef. I imagine that has some great thing to do with the reggae sauce. Tell us how the reggae sauce came about.
Well, the sauce is an inspiration of me. You know, I like to say that it's an extension of who I am. Because we're all, you know, I think we're all can do two or three things. But it's finding these two things that you're good at and being able to work with them. I don't feel we should go through life with just one idea at any time. Yeah? Like, let me say you have to have a plan B. And for me, the A was the music and the B was the love of food and cooking and enjoy being around food. You know, those were the two things that I could do that I could relax with, and if you leave me at it, the times would go past and I wouldn't notice it. You know, if I pick up the guitar and two chords come in my head, you know, I could be there for 4 or 5 hours still playing those two chords if you leave me alone, and I won't even notice that. If I'm in the kitchen and I have some ingredients around me, as long as I have some good ingredients, it's the happiest I could be. And for years, I didn't sort of recognize that I could put these two together. You know, so I could be at work and at play at the same time, you know, doing something that earns me money, but also is my liberty and my livelihood as well, and which is the music is. And, you know, the food was something that I did at the carnival. You know, that is how I express myself every year at the Notting Hill Carnival with my brethren and things. We had a little stall that we called a restaurant, and it was just expressing the music and food there, you know, because, again, it was because of me being involved in Coxsone over the years that the stall became very popular. That people would just come to the stall where Levi is, and we would sort of cook and, you know, play music and enjoy. But that was only once a year we did that. And for the rest of the year it was just music. But 2006 came when that inspiration, that thing about inspired action. You know, when sometimes you get the idea to do something, but you make it go past because you're too busy doing something else. You find the excuse, and the idea come again, and you say, boy, you know, you're too busy doing something else. You know, as it always happened to me. But 2006 came and I thought, no, I'm not going to push this thing aside anymore. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put the two things together, you know, and give the sauce the name reggae sauce. Even though to the detriment of my friends at the time, that, you know, that was saying to me, Levi, no, I'm going no reggae sauce. And I could understand what they were trying to say still. No one liked me giving it the name. Absolutely no one. Because they could understand, they thought that calling it reggae sauce and giving it the colors of green, gold and red of Rasta, and giving it that whole thing, you know, of being true to yourself. Because I'm black, I'm Jamaican and I'm a Rasta. I wanted the sauce to be about me. people didn't think being that truth is I had a little bit of something, you know, don't come with it just like that. But I really believe that would have worked, you know. I thought, yeah, I'm going to give it to them straight, you know. I want to give them, so when they pick up this bottle, they know where it's coming from and where the inspiration is coming from. And saying, from you say reggae, Rasta and Jamaica, I know that wherever you go in the world, there's a door open for you. Because being a musician and I tour all over the world, once you say one of those three, somebody will open a door and says, here's a cup of tea. Okay. You know, so I knew that. So I wanted to give it the identity of you know, of the influence that brought me through, of who I was. So I merged those two, you know, and not listen to what, you know, people were saying, because I thought this is about me, and it's only me know me.
That's right.
You know, no one can really tell my story. I have to tell it myself, and I thought that the public out there, the wider public, would have accepted it. You know, that was my view. I knew that locally I could understand, because I may have stood up and said to somebody, you know, I had a little bit of the truth type thing like that, because you know how the system is steered, you know, and that was what people were saying, you know, and I understood that. But like I says, I could only tell my own story, you know, and I wanted to get people's ears so I could tell my story. And that's why I decided to go on tour and exhibitions with the sauce and the guitar and the music, and just wherever there was a food festival, I would turn up. I would sing the song which I'd written about the sauce. Because again, the inspiration of having that music in me. If you have a sauce called reggae sauce, you know, must write a song about it.
Absolutely.
Some people ask me why I do that, but it's a natural thing for a Jamaican anyway. You know, anything when you do as a Jamaican, you write some lyrics about it, or you have some kind of lyrical content to do with it. So I written the song, and I just went to the places where no black people was. These are the food exhibitions where I concentrated going, you know, into some Yorkshire and all, the Shropshire and all the Shires and all the places like that, where you don't find nothing reggae, you don't find nothing with red, gold and green and blue. And I did that for a whole year, just targeting it. And one day, you know, my light came when I was spotted by one of the producers of the show Dragon's Den. Just saw me in this place where there was no other black people, just this one man with a guitar sing this song. Yeah. And they came over and asked me if I wanted to be on the show, and again, the rest is history, you know. Yeah.
Okay, great. So in 2006, BBC found you.
Yeah.
Tell us about what happened that fateful day.
Well, for me, it's kind of surreal. I mean, I talk about it so much, but every time I talk about it, I remember different things that was in my head and all these type of things like that. Then when I was just standing there, I was singing the song, and I had the crowd. I had a crowd around me. Because it's very quiet usually in these kind of exhibitions. Because you know, people go there, it's about food and you're tasting and them things like that. But we got out the music, we got out a ghetto blaster. And we were playing the thing, and every now and again I would get the guitar out and I would play. So they spotted me from way over the other side of the hall. They probably see the crowd and hear the noise, and I said, which man that over there makes so much noise? So when they came over, yeah,
you were saying that.
Yeah, I was saying, for me, you know, at the time, for me, it was a really surreal moment, because I never knew what Dragon's Den was. I didn't never watch the show, so I didn't understand. So when they came over to me, I was a bit perplexed that they were like interrupting the song when I was singing and things. So I was literally driving the woman away and saying, look, excuse me, lady, you know, I'm not really interested in how you talk about. Yeah, I'm trying to entertain some people. But she just keep coming back, you know. After every time I break, she would come back and says, no, you don't understand, Levi. This is Dragon's Den. But there's another show that I watch on TV, because I don't really watch TV that much. I thought it was like that. Like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. I thought it was them. And I knew that I could never do that type of thing. I mean, I eat them things when I'm up on that show. Yeah. So that's why I was saying to her, I wouldn't be interested in that type of thing like that as a Rastaman and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, she was really convincing that she gave me a business card. And it was through the business card that I recontacted her, you know, after going home, and my kids are telling me about Dragon's Den.
They've seen it, yeah.
Because they watch it and they explain to me, and you know, and I call them because my kids were saying to me that boy, Dad, I feel that you can slay the dragon. Not with a song and a sauce called reggae sauce. You know, maybe if I do it like how it's normally done, which is a smart suit, you go and you stand and you talk to them and you know, you pretend basically. You pretend that you're the finished product of a businessman when really you go there looking for experience. So I don't really understand that part. So that's why I decided to go as me. You know, I'm going as me. I'm not going as the finished product because I'm not. You know, I'm going, you know, as Levi Roots, the singer, the songwriter, and the person that loves to cook and has this great sauce that I want to sell. So eventually when I ended up, I didn't really know what I was going into, and I think that was my saving grace really. You know, because nowadays, and even on the day when I was filming it, I see how people get mashed up by the dragons there because they already have a preconception of what the dragons are like. And they know that these guys are terrible and they're going to rip them apart and, you know, and it's going to be bloody and all type of things like that. And you're going to be embarrassed and show that you don't really know nothing about business and come out of yourself with a little invention, boy, where you go with that type of thing. So it was a good thing that I didn't see the show. So I didn't really know who they were. So I treated it as a performance. You know, I just put myself back again as Levi Roots, the performer. You're going on stage now, as you've always done all your life before. You know, you've got your guitar. Somebody's going to shout your name, Levi, your time to go on, as you do. And so that's what I was going to do. I put myself in that frame of mind as I've done in thousands of times going to perform. I didn't see 5, you know, white millionaires. I saw 5,000 people. You know? Because that's, I mean, sometimes you go, you put on a show and it's not exactly that full crowd. You still have to give your full performance. And that's how I have always put myself in that frame of mind. That if I go on a stage and I see that the audience is sparse, I don't give a short performance. I still give my best. Because I still see that there's an audience out there to perform to. And that's how I managed to overcome the dragons, by going on there and not knowing what I was going to face, but and still managed to overcome them.
So you accept then that it was your presentation and your performance that won them over rather than your actual pitch?
Oh, by far it was. You know, it was that passion of doing it, you know, and that daring of doing it. I think why Peter, you know, that was saying, if this man can come on with this thing here, it must be good. Because, you know, as with anything, if you're trying to show passion, you have to show it. You know, it's deep, you know, it's big, it's bold. Can you handle passion? You know, can you really? But who can handle passion more than Jamaican? I don't think there's nobody else. I mean, look at Usain Bolt. When he stands at the line at 100 meters, everybody else is shaking in their boots, and this guy is doing the bogle and, you know, and this and that. I mean, come on, you know, just like me going on Dragons Day, and everybody else is there with their thing and looking frightened and everything like that. And me have a guitar around my waist. So, I mean, when you check it, you know, that's how we are as a people. And I think if you look right back through us as a Jamaican race, we've always had that ability to shine out with the passion. And same with the music, to get up on stage and sing about revolution and things like that, which is what reggae is coming from. You know, that is really showing some great passion, and the world has always woken up to that. And that's why when you play reggae music in places like South Africa and these oppressed places throughout the world, reggae will always be the accepted music of oppressed people, because that's where the passion comes from, for them to allow them to feel passionate about themselves, and not just see it as a music that you just listen to and you put down the album and things like that. It's still a passion, and I really believe that that's how I managed to, you know, to put that whole thing together for the Dragons to invest, not in the sauce, but invest in the person.
That's right.
In the person. But it's a good thing that the sauce was bloody good as well.
So how has that experience changed your life? How has actually slaying Peter Jones changed Levi Roots and Reggae Sauce?
I don't think it's changed me as a person, because if it did, I think people would have noticed that, you know, along the line. I think I've always been me, and I think that's why sometimes it's difficult to still be you when you are the brand. You know, it's not like I play a part in a soap opera or I'm an actor or something, whereas you can take off that thing and be yourself another time. you know, it's always me, because it's Levi Roots is the brand. So it becomes difficult at some time to be you. But I don't think it's changing. And because of my experiences with sound systems since I was 17-year-old, with a microphone, being in front of the public, being on stage, you know, being with my heroes. So that fame thing is not been thrown on me all of a sudden, and I feel like it's too much, so I've had to adjust. No, it was always there. I've always been faced with the public and knowing how to sort of address myself in that way. So the only thing that's changed maybe is the bank balance. Lord of mercy. but you know, but that's not the end of it all. You know, because you know, I really think that the integrity of who I am as a Rastaman and as a Jamaican is what keeping the brand up there. Lose that, and everything comes crashing down. You know, and I think that's very important for us, that integrity of who I am. And that's why it's not everything we would put Levi Roots' name to, because the Rasta, you know, comes first, that being a Jamaican and being, you know, a singer of reggae music, and that is what people are buying into. So that's what I'll have to remain.
So what do you do to promote the brand, not just in the UK, but in the Caribbean? Is there anything that you do back home?
Yeah, well, we've just done fantastic. We just launched in Jamaica last year, which for me was a brilliant thing to do, because, you know, coming from there as an 11-year-old boy back then, from a little place, you know, called Content in Clarendon, where, you know, nobody really know this unless you come from there, you know, and to come to the UK and to do what we've done, you know, as a team, and then to bring it back, sorry, to bring it back to the island, and to say to people, like, you can do it too, you know. It's not rocket science, it's just like showing your passion and having a great plan. And it was brilliant to bring it back and launch it back there, and actually to walk into a store and to see, you know, my creation in there. You know, it was a brilliant thing. So we're ready now to launch the rest of the world. So the future is bright for us now. It's about promoting that Levi Roots brand and taking it to not just the brand, but the message that it brings as well. You know, to say that you can be a dreadlocks Rastaman from wherever you are and still remain who you are, but people will accept you, you know, providing that you're true to yourself, because that's what people are looking for. They're looking for a little bit of themselves in somebody else, you know, and the things that they are unable to bring out. If they can see it in someone else, they will support, and I think that's what they've been supporting.
Absolutely. Now, you know, last year you had this highly publicized fallout with Tony and Sylvester.
Yes.
It turned out that the judge thought them to be dishonest.
Yes.
And their claim was quashed, more or less. How do you feel about that whole thing? And do you still maintain a relationship with Tony?
Well, you know, 2011 was, I don't know whether to describe it as the one of the worst years or the best years, you know, yet. Because it's the year that the problems came along with the fabulousness of everything. And as a Rastaman, I've always known that, you know, it's not all that's glitters, it's not gold. You have to really be on your pumps and your pride and get ready for something that will happen. And, you know, especially as a Jamaican, you'll always be aware of that aspect of what them call the old bad mind thing, you know. You've always been aware of that. So it was good to know that, you know, last year I managed to get rid of that and to move on forward. It would have happened. I mean, with all, you know, with them stuff that's going on with reggae and all this kind of TV shows just coming from nowhere. If I wasn't me, I would have probably want to sue me. That's how it goes. You know, that's how it is. Yeah. And my mentors, people like Peter Jones and the people who I really listen to, the people that gives me the real advice, you know, would have always said, beware of that, you know. You're not just going to just ride off into the sunset with everything that you pervades just like that and with no problems, you know, and life doesn't allow you to do that. But as long as you can be true to yourself, and I said other people can see that you're true to yourself, you will get through life. And I think the judge saw that, you know, the judge saw the fact that, you know, you can be who you are, who you say you are, but come into the court and lie. And I think that's why he gave the verdict to me. But we put that behind us and we move on now, because now is the time for us to really show people how, you know, it's got there and where it can possibly go, because we kind of was held back the past couple of years because of the trial. Okay. But now I think, you know, we can usurp ahead.
Levi, we understand that you did some acting.
Yes.
In the past. You did Mean Machine with Vinnie Jones.
No, I didn't play. I didn't play. I think I was approached to do it, and I didn't. Again, we talked about the integrity. I turned down a lot of stuff again because of the fact that really got to be careful what you do. You know, things like In the Jungle and all these type of things like that. You know, I don't think it's a Levi Rhodes type thing. But one thing I did, which was great fun, was Anotherhood.
All right.
Anotherhood, which was the part 2 of the first film.
Oh, yes.
And that was really great fun to do that in it. Really proper movie, really funny as well. So you're looking forward to some more roles as well.
All right. So you have anything on the horizon that you've been told about? Are you looking
not movie-wise, but you know, obviously with the TV shows, we're looking to get back on TV. The first series, my first series, the cooking series, Caribbean Food Made Easy, it actually, you know, help to get Caribbean food up there. Okay. And that's my bigger plan, you know, is to try to get the cuisine as popular as French, Italian food and all these other foods that, you know, that we see when we go out and have a meal in the evening time. That's my mission, and I know TV will help to do that. So, you know, looking to get back on TV with another cooking show.
All right. Any plans or any ideas about teaching people to cook, like academy type setup? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we've talked about even using this place here, and this place here, Papine, it was my first break, and this is where we started even before the Dragon's Den thing and everything. We talked about maybe opening this to kids later on in the year, to bring them in here for them to take over and teach them about food and about healthy lifestyle and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's definitely something that we want to do.
Good. And what would you like to be remembered as?
Dragon Slayer. Yeah, just that. Dragon Slayer. Yeah, I like that, man. Yeah,
Jamaican
yeah, man, slay them dragons. Yeah.
Okay. Any parting words? Anything you want to give advice to entrepreneurs about?
Well, for me, the key thing has always been about the planning thing, you know, because I really believe that, you know, especially for, you know, young black males, which I'm really concerned about, especially in this country here, with the amount of prison visits that I do, and I go in and I see that we're overrepresented, you know, in the prisons with young black male, and I think that's a big problem to do with that. We need to inspire our young youths, especially our young males. We need more people like myself, dare I say, who is willing to put the time in and not send the message, which is two different things. You know, I do believe that we have a lot of us, you know, that's sending a message, but I think we need to do more than that. Is to visit these kids and spend the time. Because the most valuable thing an entrepreneur or a businessman or somebody that's made it, the most valuable thing that they have is their time. You know, and that's what I'm asking for. You know, it's for them to visit these kids and make time for them so that they can be inspired. They can be inspired for it. So that's my passing shot, is to say, you know, let's bring out some more inspiration, because we have so much, and our young black men, they need that.
All right. Well, Levi, thank you very much for telling us about your journey and spending the time with us on this busy Saturday morning. And we'll be following you. I promise you that.
That's the fun.
Thanks again.
Stop.